My name is Jeremy Melanson, co-founder of Turnkey Custom Homes. In 2016, I set out to build a home on some land. After failing to find a builder to help me understand the process, Turnkey was born and we were new builders. Fast forward past a lot of hard lessons, long hours, and adventure-like stories, we took our side hustle to a 7-figure business where we get to show up every day and work together with our friends and family to build beautiful custom homes. This series was created to pull back the curtain and go behind the scenes of home building and give us a chance to have an open conversation about how clients and builders can work together to achieve their goals. Let's begin to build. Okay, welcome to the Begin to Build podcast. Today we've got Sharisa Gibson with Precision Pest Control in Huntsville, Texas. 40 plus years, woman-owned business, they help us with all of our pest control needs, all of our termite pre-treatments. We're going to do a deep dive in that today. Also going to talk about just living in the community and seeing what has changed and what all of these businesses and relationships have done for their families. We've also got her son Tyler Gibson in here with Precision Environmental, where he handles erosion control and hydro seed, sod, broadcast planning. Teaches us a little bit about that, about what it looks like when we're starting to build a home. What do we need to be concerned about? What's some of the real information about erosion control, pest control, all of these things. All right, let's begin to build. We work together. We've known each other for a long time. Tyler, I think me and you met first going to Sam Houston and then met later through College Rodeo. So Sharisa Gibson, Tyler Gibson, owners and operators of Precision Pest Control in Huntsville, Texas. And now Tyler has a new business, Precision Environmental.
Not too far off of Precision Pest
Control. You got to keep that brand so we can use the same logos and names and everything else. As a new construction builder, we do a lot of work together as far as termite treatments, pest control things, and also erosion control after a new build. And we work together a lot in that way. We also have rental property in Huntsville, so we've done quite a bit of business in that direction as well. So, yeah, I think college rodeoing. So I was in the saddle bronc riding. You were in the steer wrestling. We both rodeoed under Bubba Miller. Went to the college national finals together. I remember I was at Conroe at one of the first college rodeos I went to, and I was a little nervous hanging out in the back, and so I just hugged up to your dad sitting over there on that tractor behind the back of the arena, and just sat there and talked to him for a while, and that was cool. He calmed me down a little bit. Him and his cup and his tractor just hanging out, ready to drag the arena because he helped out on everything. He's just there for everybody.
Well, did y'all not know each other during high school rodeo, or y'all age group? Because did you do Region 9?
I did Region 9, but I didn't start riding saddle bronc horses until I was 18. So I had one high school rodeo year, and that was my senior year. So I don't know if we really knew each other that well.
Year.
He was also way better. He was on the bloomer team.
Oh,
he was important, y'all. They were this high school rodeo royalty over there, and I was just trying to figure out how to saddle something. The first college rodeo, or the first high school rodeo I went to, I hadn't covered a horse yet at all.
Yeah.
And I went to this high school rodeo. And
you and Cody's over. Sorry, Cody's over.
Yeah, well, he didn't make the first rodeo. He didn't make it till the third rodeo.
Okay, okay.
So the first rodeo, I get off this horse on the pickup, man, and I was so excited, and they called out no score. Like, what are they talking about? Man, I think you lost your stirrup. It's like, of course I lost my stirrup, but what's that have to do with anything? It's it's the rule. You have to have both stirrups on. So I was so upset. I didn't ride another one until my 9th rodeo. We only had 11, So I was like, I'm going to be the only one that doesn't make state finals because you can't cover a horse. There's not 10 bronc riders. All you got to do is stay on one. And I was so stressed out that I wasn't going to make high school finals because I wasn't going to be able to stay on a bronc.
Oh. That's pretty good, that story, though. But yeah, so you made it your 9th rodeo.
Yeah, my 9th rodeo, I stayed on one for 65 points.
Pressure's off.
Yeah, then I was good. Then I rode the next one, right? Because it didn't matter.
Exactly. It didn't matter if I only got, 10 points. I'm going to state.
And I was the alternate to go to nationals that year.
Really?
Yeah.
Good job.
I rode my horses at state. One slapped me into the wall, and it's funny because his head went down and I went up. And so I've got this picture of me just fly swattering against that concrete wall in Abilene, and my horses piled up underneath me. But I did pretty good at the state finals.
But. So do you know that? But we met Carly. I think y'all had just started dating, and we used to take horses to the vet. Carly worked at the front, and I'm trying to remember how this went. Anyway, Tyler had a calf roping horse named Jack. And do you remember that?
I remember Jack.
Yeah. And so then Carly, I think Klondike, or wasn't that her horse's name?
Yeah.
Got
Big Bay
hurt.
horse.
And so Joe said, hey, Carly, you can use this horse.
That's right. I forgot about that.
Because that's who he was. I mean, he was
Yeah.
like, here, you don't have anything, just use the horse. And so she rode Jack for a while.
Yep.
I don't know if she was
I do remember that. I remember
CPRA or college. I don't know if it was for college rodeo or CPRA.
it would have been CPRA rodeos for her. She was doing really well and making CPRA finals, and then Klondike tore his suspensory.
Yep.
And then Joe said that we could ride Jack, and we came out to y'all's house and roped, and you were shoot dogging, and
yes,
you were tying calves off the chute
Yep.
out there. So we
I
came
remember
out the
that now.
house.
yeah, and we were living in that little bunkhouse.
Yep.
In the barn because we hadn't built a house yet.
I
Jeez,
forgot all
if
about
I'd
that.
known you back in the day, you could have built us.
If
a house.
I knew, yeah, it probably would. We could have learned on your house instead of Tyler and Amy.
Yeah.
Yeah, so full disclosure, Tyler and his wife Amy are one of our first home building. You are one of the first few people that trusted us to build a house for
Absolutely.
you. So.
That was when Tony was boots on the ground.
Oh yeah, both of us. I put some screws in the sheets at your house.
Yeah, we're there full time. I was actually working in Louisiana at that time, kind of coming back and forth. But it was funny. Tony'd always be there, and in the evenings, we'd get some beers and we'd walk through and we'd look at everything, and it was I remember that.
You drinking beer with Tony at the end of the evening probably got you the best quality control you could ask for.
Absolutely.
Right? Like y'all, oh yeah, we should probably fix that. We'll get that done. No problem. Like. Yeah.
Well, he put up with Kathy and Amy, so.
Yeah, 2 women, 1 project.
Yes, sir.
That's always,
Absolutely.
That's just double the help is all that is, really.
That might be one of those things you want to cut out when he says put up with Amy and Kathy.
Yeah, no. See, I only cut out things for me. I just told you I was going to do that before we started.
We'll definitely leave that in.
Yeah. So, on the pest control side, how long have y'all been doing that?
Joe started in 1983. I met him in 1985. I'm sorry, wait, he started in 1985. I met him in 1985, and then we got married in 87, so 40 years.
Wow. So you've gotten to see every bit of the business from start to current. So
yes.
but,
days when you thought, oh, am I going to have enough money to pay the bills, like back in the 80s and the 90s.
And then just days that you don't.
Yeah. But I mean, in days that I could tell you a story, and what probably being in business this long has taught me, just like he's gone and he's not here on this earth again. It's so crazy now when I have people that have passed away that were customers, and now their kids are like their customers. They've inherited their homes or whatever. And then, you get the ones that when you've been doing this and they've been like your customer for 35 years, and then they're gone, they've moved to an assisted living, whatever it may be. And then their grandkid will call.
Yeah.
And then I'll say, hey, are you related to so-and-so? And they'll be like, yeah. And I'll be like, okay, that is showing how old I have become.
Yeah.
But, it is. It's and a lot of people call us because they'll say, I remember that man. And they're talking about Joe.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that is so funny to me. Or still to this day, he's been gone almost 11 years, and people call and they used us 25 years ago.
Yeah.
And then they'll go, hey, do you remember us? And I'm like, well, I'm trying to, but they always remember him. So anyway.
He was a big presence. And,
absolutely.
And just somebody that would help anybody.
Yeah.
It's so cool that y'all have been in business in this area for so long, though. Like just like talking about, you knew Carly from when she was working at Richie Moore Vet Clinic.
And that was probably 15 years ago?
At least, yeah. So that was when we first started dating. She was working there while she was getting her master's degree. And now Dr. Richie and Dr. Moore and Dr. Richie are both, gone out of it, and they sold it to Dr. Nicholson, and now his little boy's on our baseball team.
Yeah,
and,
we played All-Stars together.
And coaching baseball was out of the blue. Never knew that we would be baseball coaches, but it's wild that when you just become a part of the community.
Yeah.
And, building houses, it's all about relationships. We don't build anything. And I tell people that all the time. Like, we do not build your house. We manage it. We help order of events. We help what, needs to go in the right order, making sure things get done completely and properly. A lot of it is just communicating with the homeowner about what they want to do or what they don't want to do or how they want something to look. And it's not a Lego kit. We have to figure out how that all fits together. And we get better at it each day, but that's what we're doing is kind of figuring out what we're going to do in our community. Y'all have been doing what you've done for our community, with our community, however you look at it, for a long time. And, this relationship that we have, it's another reason why, hey, I'm not going to have 4 or 5 quotes for everything. I'm not saying you have to go with who I'm going to present, but I'm going to present who I know will show up, who I know will do a good job, who I know will answer the phone later when I need them. I can't stand behind my brand or our brand if me and Tony don't know who's working on your house or what they're doing. You know what I mean?
Oh, that's true. So
we have to know who we're working with.
Yeah.
Or otherwise, we don't really know what you're getting.
Yeah, and we see that a lot. Over the years, I've seen it in the pest control industry, and that's why I always tell you, like, Termitor. If you use the good products and you don't cut the corners and you don't use the cheapest product out there, then you're going to take care of that customer. And I guarantee you, they're not going to have a problem if they stay in that house 15, 20, 25 years. They're not going to have a problem if you use the best product for them. But if you use some cheap, and there are some cheap stuff out there.
Yeah.
And if you basically, it's like going to Home Depot and buying something, or going to the and if you use that, then it's going to break down within a 5-year period. And so that's what people don't understand. They'll go, I need a price, and you go, okay, well, there's this and there's this, and they want to go with the cheaper, but I'm like, cheaper's not always better. We all know that. Yeah. So
I think too, one of the things that kind of sets us apart is the tools that we use for the application. Everything that we're using is, ahead of its time. She's constantly looking. Billy Dawn's constantly looking. What tools can we use to applicate that quality product at the best price for the best finished product.
Right.
And that's something that we're constantly on. And then the installation process. Are you going through the right steps on how you're doing it? And that's something that Joe, he was real big on, and then Mom's picked up on, and that's kind of where we're at now. It's one thing we pride ourselves on that I feel like we try to do.
Honesty.
Yeah, honesty.
Yeah, because when you hand someone 2 quotes and they've got 2 different numbers on the bottom of them, it doesn't matter. It's very rarely the price. It's what you're getting for that price, right? And so if someone wants to go with the least expensive option, as long as they know what they're getting for that least expensive option, it's there. But we need a guide to help explain us what is it that I'm getting, because nothing's really apples to apples. So if you're going to build 1,000 homes as fast as you can possibly build them, and then sell them as fast as you can possibly sell them, you're not going to be around in 5 years to care what they used when they pre-treated the slab for termites. However, if we've been in business now as builders in our little community where our kids go to school and we play baseball and we do all these things, and we've been around for 8 years, so it was shorter than I thought it was, right? So we've already been in our house for 2 years. I think we built y'all's house 5, 6, 7 years ago.
Shoot, at least 5.
Yeah. So we don't, as much as we can learn and do things different and adapt what we do, we try to, so that these can be long-term investments for the families that we're building with, to keep their house like it's supposed to be. And so there's just different applications for different people, and we don't know everything there is to know about pest control or framing or roofing or anything else. We know enough to try to help guide you through it, to try to have the conversations. Things like this help have the conversations. We're going to dig a little bit deeper in this subject today than I do with most homeowners that we talk to, and they can watch it at their own, speed and learn what they want to learn about it. But that's what we're here to do, is kind of guide through the process and make sure we're matching everybody up properly. And we can only do that if we know who we're dealing with. So that's why the relationships are so important, to kind of stick by who you've been working with, that you know what you're going to get.
Agreed. It's the same way. I've got some people that I grew up with here in Huntsville that you talk about generations of their kids taking over businesses and doing different things. I immediately reach out to those people to do things. And the way that their dads taught them how to do it and their moms taught them how to do it, it just carries on through.
Yeah.
And I had the relationship with them from baseball and different things. And it's like you said, it's neat how it all comes back around.
Well, and now you've learned so much about, the erosion control and the hydro seed and all of that side of everything. That's kind of, a lot of different. It's a lot different than the pest control side on some things. And you've kind of taken what you've learned and ran with that. And, it's funny because we've got a kind of a similar background. Like, my folks had an oil field construction company for 10 years. And so I was raised by people that were dealing with what it was like to deal with a business. I was hearing the issues that they were having, or the wins that they were having, the celebrations that they had and things like that. And they, worked through that 10 plus years of running that business. And then we rodeoed, right? And I always say rodeo breeds entrepreneurship, because it's like, well, man, I need to be gone Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Can't work any weekends at all. And I'm going to be gone about 2.5 months in the summer. Are we good? It's like no boss ever said, yeah, you sound like a great hire.
That's where Facebook Marketplace really played a key for me.
Yeah.
Let's see what I can sell.
Buy a trade.
Hey, remember me and Trevor Harmon selling posts out of my front yard?
I bought some from you guys.
I had a home, somebody come in to talk to building with me, and he looked at me and he goes, man, you're familiar. He goes, did you used to sell cedar posts? And I was like, yes.
Yeah, I remember when y'all did
We've been doing this for like 8 years now, so I hadn't sold cedar posts in a long time. I didn't just like stop selling cedar posts yesterday and start doing this, but yes, when I was rodeoing, man, if I thought I could make $1 on it and not have to show up at a certain hour, I was in.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So yeah, we came up with all kinds of things, because that rodeo, you've got all of that freedom, but also all of that time gone and everything else.
Yeah, it's definitely, losing Dad in 2012. It was definitely a learning curve for Mom, for myself, for everybody. And one of the best things that after Dad passed away was Weston coming into our lives. And it was almost like it gave us a reboot for the company. And I left for a little while, and Mom worked through some things, and it was just kind of a gray area, but it all kind of worked out for the better. And I think we all learned a lesson, and it ended up where we're at now. 2023.
But like Jeremy said, I mean, you just do it promotes entrepreneurship to try to figure out.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, how am I going to make enough money to where I can stay gone for this period of time?
That is no lie.
And I mean, it does, because I mean, it's all about, especially y'all being so much younger. I mean, it's all about trying to figure out, even when I was raising kids, I mean, it's all about trying to figure out, and I'm sure your mom would say the same. It's all about trying to figure out how to finagle it and make it work. And I'm a big believer of these people that quit. I'm like, no, there's a way. Where there's a will, there's a way.
Yeah.
I don't care what we're doing. We're going to figure something out.
Man, and those shocks to the system, like you're talking about, they're so much harsher than you ever expected them to be when someone else went through it. When something tragic, when it happened to y'all, when Joe died, I remember thinking, man, like, that's such a huge loss, and that's I can't imagine what they're going through. Well, I was exactly right. I couldn't imagine it.
Yeah.
When we lost Rick in 2021, Scarlett was a day before Scarlett's first birthday, and we had just moved in our house 2 months earlier. My mom was in transition and moving down to Huntsville. Like, a lot was going on, and I just remember it shook everything up so much. Yeah. It was like you didn't know.
Makes your whole world just become like so uncertain.
Yeah.
You've got God, and you know that He's going to get you through it, but you know that everything else just seems like it's just chaos.
Yeah.
Nothing seems the same anymore.
Oh my gosh. And like gray area, like you were talking about, like it lasts different ways, different times, but it was like it's like we had moved to another place and couldn't speak the same language or something, like
that's
just
a good description.
so much
that's a really good description.
happening. But you still have the business, you still have all of these things, and then that
can't give up.
You
gotta
can't.
keep going.
And then you feel like, I mean, you have one less person on your team and it starts bringing in to perspective how important like the true people in your life really are, because there's so few of them really.
Very true.
So
very true.
But then again, it almost shot us into movement, into like, well, hang on, we were on autopilot a little bit, and we really went to work at that period of time. And I can't imagine, I mean, I kind of can, kind of can't, but like you really took, you got all parts of it, like, Joe started in 85 and then y'all worked together for,
I didn't really work. I like to say I worked. I didn't really work. I mean, I ran in there maybe once or twice a week and signed checks and acted like I worked, but I didn't really work. I mean, I told people I worked, but I didn't really work. And I mean, and then that's when I realized, oh, this is really work.
Yeah,
like, this is really work. And but anyway, my deal was that the state only gave me 6 months to get my license, because even though I could talk the walk. Talk the talk, walk the walk, but I didn't really know day to day, like out in the field. But I could tell you what to do. I could tell you how much chemical certain jobs were going to need. I could tell you what the cost would be on that job. I could tell you all that. I've always said I'd be a good estimator, because I'm like, I've always figured that part of it out. But I also did not know, and so then I had to trust people. This was when Tyler was in college, being college boy. And so I had to trust people. And, I got burned a couple of times, but I learned, live and learn. Once again, I said, I'm not going to quit. I'm just going to get up. I'm going to keep rolling. And, and so anyway, so yes. So I had to, pass my test, got that, my certified applicator test. And then, and then I was like, okay, I can do this. It's one of those things to where, you just have to keep telling yourself you cannot quit.
Yeah,
that's all about not quitting.
Yeah, you talk about the not quitting part. I can remember, because I was helping out at different stages, going to school, or, still rodeoing, and I can just remember, Mom, people that we had accounts with and different things, and had done business with for a long time, just kind of just throwing the towel in and cutting us off.
Oh, they cut me loose.
I mean, cut us loose. And I was just almost a punch to the chest. It was like, golly.
They didn't think I'd make it.
They didn't think we'd make it. Yeah, they didn't think she'd make it. And they jumped ship. And that's one thing that I was really proud of her on was.
They've come back.
They have. Most of them have. Most of them have.
Quality service is quality service.
Absolutely. And that was one thing that I was really proud of her, that she did. And, but yeah, just one thing that always just, like, when she'd call me and go, hey, so-and-so cut us today. And I'd be like, really? It's like, man, they're not even trying to work with us or, help, stick with us to navigate this thing. And, but hey, here we are.
Here we are.
Yeah. And I know it feels uncomfortable talking about it because, we all diminish our own story, but no, you did. You worked through it. You are a huge success story in our eyes, and it's really, really super cool to see.
Well, enough of patting me on the back. So yeah, but it is what it is, and like I said, it's can't quit.
Yeah, I mean we're a full residential commercial pest control company.
So narrowing it down for a homeowner, for instance, we deal in mostly new construction, and I know that there's a ton of things that y'all do. But if we just narrowed it down to termite treatment, for instance, when I sit down in front of someone, we are a very transparent builder. We show them your actual quotes. They see what I see. Yeah. It's all outlined and put together into a proposal, into a plan, and I'm kind of helping guide them through it. But they see, any homeowner that works with us sees all of the information, usually if that's the path that they choose. Now, I know everyone's different, and so some builders may choose the direction, but really, I'll have one person that never even thought about their home being termite treated, and I'll have the next person specifically telling me the brand and how they want it sprayed and what they want put in there at the same time and things like that. So I've got to kind of work through that in the beginning to see what information that they want. So most of the time when I say, hey, do you want to pre-treat your slab before we pour it, or do you want to do kind of a post-framing treat? They look back at me like I just spoke Greek, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if I'm talking to a homeowner and they're just getting started building a home, what are kind of the differences of, what services do y'all provide for them that that they can kind of choose through, and how do y'all feel about those?
So the old school way, which has been, and back in the day, you younger folks wouldn't probably know what chlordane was, but chlordane was the only thing that was on the market. And then EPA banned that, and then that was probably in 1987, 8. And then
And Tony says that's what you can, like, if you get under an old house and scrape the dirt, he said you can still smell that. It lasts forever.
Absolutely.
He is correct. And so there was chlordane. It might have even actually been before that the EPA banned it. Then along came Dursban TC. That was took place of it. That was once again the premier product in termite treatments, pre-treats. And then from that they banned that in probably mid-90s. And then they came out with Termidor, which is basically, the first two were repellents. They were a repellent that you would spray on the slab, such as chlordane, or underneath the house, and it's still there. And so those were actually repellents. They were repellent. They were actually, I like to always say, putting a barrier, a moat, whatever, on that slab and around the perimeter of the slab if you chose to do that later. Termidor is actually a bait. The termites, if they were to come up through a crack in the slab, God forbid, you don't want no cracks in the slab, or through a plumbing entrance or something like that, then they hit the Termidor, they feed on that dirt that has the Termidor in it, they take it back to the colony, and they eliminate underneath. Where Dursban and chlordane, it was just a barrier, and you hope nothing broke down that barrier.
Gotcha.
Termidor, we don't have to worry about a barrier. It is literally like a bait. And so they come up through the bath trap area, through an expansion joint that somebody decided to do an add-on at a later date. And so they hit that, they feed off of it, take it back to the colony elimination underground. So basically, is it good for another outbuilding on your property? Yes. Is it good for your neighbor if you have a neighbor that's within 10 to 15 feet? Yes. It's beneficial for structures around and homes around. And then, so that's basically on the pre-treats.
Okay, and this is the pre-treats. That's when we're making up the slab. We're going to get our concrete company to dig the beams, and they're ready for everything. They're fixing to lay the moisture barrier down, their 6 mil plastic, whatever they're using, make up the slab. Y'all come in right before that.
Correct. Yeah. We treat the each of the beams, the inside of the beam, the walls of the beams, the exterior beam, the top, the plumbing entrances. Everything's treated, and that's why that's based on a square foot price, because it's based on the square footage.
And then that Termidor, there are competitors to Termidor that are different. Are they just different grades of products, but they're still a bait? Or are they still using repellents out there? When we're getting these numbers for pre-treat, are we seeing all these different things if we don't know to look for them?
Right. There are still repellents out there, but they're not up to the market standards. For what they're back from like 20 years ago.
Gotcha.
Termidor was kind of the standard.
It is.
It's what works, and it's the industry standard.
And BASF, who manufactures Termidor, backs their product.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if I did a pre-treat for one of your houses, and 2 years later, I'm not talking about like 20, I'm talking about 2 years later, I think they have a 10-year warranty. 2 years later, you have a homeowner and says, I got termites all in this stud, in this framework. Well, then I would get the BASF rep out there, and he's going to have to kick in at some point and give us some guidance or some help or whatever. I've never had that happen. Knock on wood. I don't have any wood, but still, I do know houses that they have had to, very few, but
So
still, they back their product.
So we've got to make sure to protect our brand that we're working with reputable people that are actually going to answer the phone and deal with these things for us when we have something like this happen. But you also have to make sure for you to be able to stand behind that, you've got to have somebody like that BASF rep or using a real product has.
That's exactly why you use them, because you know that they're going to stand behind their product.
Yeah, and then it also goes into what equipment's being used to apply that product.
Correct.
How's that product being applied? Those are the things that at Precision Pest Control we have control over. Yeah. Are we trained to mix it at the right rates? Are we applying it at the right rates? Are we applying it at the right time of day? How's our wind? Is it rainy? Is it sunny? We're looking around at all those different things to make sure that product is as efficient as it can be when it's laid down.
Correct.
And those are things that we within Precision Pest Control can make sure that we do. And that's what we try to do. So
yeah, it's the price is dependent on when in construction. The price is how much of something are we doing and what quality are we doing it.
Absolutely.
So the material, what's the price of the material? We can get cheaper or more expensive material. Yeah. We can have someone that actually spends time and makes sure they coat those beams, or we can have someone that said, man, I can be a cheap price because I can do 8 in a day and spray them in 30 minutes, where somebody may be out there 4 hours and they can only get 1 or 2 done in a day. Yeah. So they're going to be a little more expensive because they're doing a more thorough job. Yep. But
and we need to give a shout out to BD, because he is our pre-treat.
Billy Don's the pre-treat man.
He is the pre-treat man. He loves to do pre-treats.
He can have all of them.
For whatever reason,
all of them
we don't know, but he loves a pre-treat. He's like, I like pre-treats. Nobody bothers me. I get out there, I do my thing.
Put his ear pods in, listen to a podcast.
Yeah, he does.
And
get after it.
I remember it's probably been 5 years ago now. I started having him bring rock out here to the grounds. You introduced me to him, and he owned Victory Trucking and had 2 rock trucks. Yeah, and took care of us on rock. That, I can't imagine running a business with more nightmares in it than trucking, but good to those that can do it.
That's why he's not doing it anymore.
But yeah, our guys I know love working with him.
Lawsuits in trucking are, and I'm not saying bad lawsuits. I'm saying like because of wrecks and stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's tough because you'll have concrete guys working through building the slab, and they're way more concerned with building the slab than they are your timeline. So they'll call, hey, I'm digging beams today. And we're like, okay, well, we've got, so we call y'all probably get it the worst. Like, standard in our business is to call the contractors and give them a 10-day window. You don't get a 10-day window.
No,
like
we get
y'all,
like a 24, 48-hour period window.
Yeah, like they're calling Billy John. They're digging beams. Can you be here? Tomorrow, because you also don't want to treat it and leave it open for a week.
Yeah, because then you add in your weather.
Yeah, so we've got guys standing there with plastic ready.
Oh yeah.
But then they've got 15 guys on that crew. They can't pay them for a whole day of just sitting around watching someone spray. So they'll have it all made up, have the plastic ready to cover, and then y'all will be there at, say 7 a.m. the next morning spraying it, and that crew will be ready to cover it up. Or they'll knock off early, y'all finish it that afternoon, and worst case scenario, it's covered right the next morning. But the weather dependent on that spray, and I'm not an expert, I don't know how all of it works, but we've got to get it covered up.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. And then the covering up part is, sometimes concrete guys or builders, they get mad at us because, we're like, hey, now, God forbid, it would be so nice to have rain right now.
Yeah, no kidding.
But especially in the spring and in the winter, I'm like, I'm sorry, we can't come out there. It's supposed to be pouring down rain at some point tonight. Right. I'm like, unless you got somebody out there at 9:00 to cover it.
Exactly.
And then they get mad, and then they're like, oh, and I'm like, I'm sorry.
Right.
So,
right. Sometimes you have to save us from our own way, know?
Yeah. I had one the other day, that they were kind of upset. And anyway, and what do you do?
But you're standing behind this service, and the product's got to stand behind the product. If you don't apply it right, that you're going to have a phone call in 4 years that's an issue.
Well, and and it's the same thing. Nobody can walk on it when it's sprayed, not only for health reasons and their safety, but also it messes up that barrier.
Right.
And so like it's really hard to explain to sometimes, do not walk on this slab. I mean, it's like, and then you look out there and there they go, and you're like, get off the slab, and then it's just crazy. But if people don't want to do the Termidor treatment, pre-treat, then there's two other options they can have as far as protecting their investment.
Okay, so our next option, the way we like to do it, and if we need to do it different, I'll edit that part and you can tell me and then I'll redo it. But what we like to do is we like to get all of our rough ends done. So I want the electrician, the plumber, the HVAC contractor, structured wiring, whatever it is. I want them all to have all the holes drilled in the framing, have everything cleaned up, and then I'm ready for insulation. So we spray foam all of our homes, and so I know that I need to get the wall cavities cleaned out. If there's any trash or shavings, we sweep and vacuum everything, try to get the house as clean as possible so that we've got good adhesion between the backside of the sheathing and the spray foam. But right before that spray foam's applied, then that's when Billy Don comes in and sprays the bottom, 2 to 4 feet.
No, we spray first and then you spray foam.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
But I'm going to get it perfectly cleaned up. That way nobody's in there touching it, and then y'all come in, y'all spray,
Correct.
and then I do insulation because that insulation is going to completely cover it.
Correct.
And I don't have anybody coming in, and because I've had people come in right after and they stick their hand on the wall. It's like, what is, so we like to cover it up as soon as the borate treatment's done.
Yeah. And borate treatments, are about half of what a termite treatment is. I mean, a pre-treatment is on the slab or pre-slab. But borates are something that came out, I don't know, probably about 7-8 years ago, and they've been one of those things to where people, it's less expensive. B, it's only doing the studs, bottom plate and 2 foot up each one, 2 applications. But I personally, if I was going to build a house, I would always do the pre-treat because I know it's protected. That's just me. I know that I'm going to get 100%. Borates, if you got a leak in the wall, I'm just saying, which once again, you got a bigger problem than termites. But if you got a leak in the wall, it's slow drip that you don't even know about, it's going to break down that borate on that wood. I mean, it is. And so it's a lot easier to break down a borate on a stud or a bottom plate than it is to break down a chemical pre-treat before the slab's poured. So yes, borates are great. The state came out with them and mandated them as a method of a pre-treatment, but they're probably about, I'd say, 50% less effective.
Oh, wow. No.
Yeah.
Okay, so if we have an existing home that we're remodeling or something like that, and we're not going to go that invasive, or just one of our homes that we live in, whatever that is, that third treatment is kind of a post-completion treatment, right?
Correct.
So what's that look like?
Trenching all the dirt around the house. We're looking for a barrier all around that we're going to fill up with Termidor. And then from there, we're looking for any concrete, bricks, anything of that nature. We're actually going to drill holes into that until we reach the subsoil. Once we reach the soil, we're then going to inject it with Termidor.
Okay.
Once again, goes into, application rates, how's the moisture of the ground, weather conditions really play into that. What kind of barriers are we going around? Is there a shop right next to it? Is there something connected to it? Is there an old existing slab?
A water well.
Water well.
Is it sitting on water?
Is it sitting on water? Is there moisture held underneath the house? These are all things that we're looking for, but we're really looking for penetration into that ground. Trenching 6 inches, I think, is what it calls for.
No, a foot deep.
Foot deep.
Foot deep,
6 inches wide. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So we're creating a barrier around the house,
a moat
with the chemical.
Yes.
And then that's attempting to work the same way as a pre-treat. A little harder to get to.
Yes.
Maybe not quite complete coverage because it's the barrier, but still a very effective form of termite treatment if you have a termite issue or didn't get the pre-treat.
Yeah, and then really, really big deal is when we're using a hammer drill, we're drilling into the driveway or the front porch or whatever the case may be, wherever there's an expansion joint, making sure we're getting through and we're making contact with the ground. And then when we're injecting, we're making sure that we're getting injection into the ground. Super, super important.
So we can pre-treat when we build the house, but how long after we build a house should we have it on our mind that we may be needing to do some type of post-treatment?
It's best if you do it after your landscaping or your sprinkler systems are put into place. Because if we were to go in and do a perimeter treatment, a vertical treatment is what the state defines it, and then somebody goes in and puts in a sprinkler system and digs up that, I mean, you're disturbing that barrier. Yep. So everything needs to be done after landscaping and sprinkler systems are put in.
And I think that's kind of something that's hard to wrap our minds around as homeowners or just lay people that aren't doing it every day. Is you're actually creating a barrier. You don't want someone stepping in that dirt and pulling that dirt away and creating a hole in that barrier now. So it's that important to keep that solid wall.
But most people, they get in there, they get their new house, they're all excited, life's great, and then they put in their landscaping and they put in new sprinkler. And by then, they're like, they've kind of forgotten about it. And then they're also going, we have spent a lot, getting everything ready. And then that just kind of gets pushed to the wayside. They're probably going to be just fine with just that horizontal barrier that was put in before. But, I'd probably say I have about 10 a year that call back and say, hey, I'm ready now. I've got all my landscaping in. I've got my sidewalks in. I've got, whatever it may be.
What was the house in the Avenues the other day? It was so bad where the front of the house was eaten away. We did anyways, it was an older home in the Avenues. And the front side, I guess it was the dining area. They were doing some remodeling. Man, it was eaten up. And we went over there and did a horizontal treatment and treated the expansion joints, but it was pretty bad.
You do everything with a slab, right? You don't do any pier and beams.
No, not really. We do a few remodels every once in a while that we'll kind of get into discussions on that. We kind of did look at one the other day that had kind of an elaborate block and beam. We were going to pour beams and footers, but we were going to frame up some of the foundation just because of the type of flooring they wanted to use, but we ended up finding a better way. So most of the homes that we build are on slab, and most of the time we're going to go with a Termitor treatment. They're going to ask our suggestion, and that's what we're going to go with.
Just always remember this, that on a pier and beam structure, if you're doing a remodel or if you're doing a new build, if you're ever going to have have it leveled, especially on a remodel or when you're doing a new build, sheet metal on top of each one of the piers and wrap that pier with sheet metal, like I don't know, what is a cinder block if you're using cinder blocks, 8x8?
Yeah, 8x16
yeah,
or whatever it is.
So
the little termite guards that someone will put in between the blocks and the wood.
That's exactly.
It's a mechanical barrier.
It is.
So that helps
That's
as well.
That's talking myself out of money and him, but hey, it works.
If you're not going to do anything else, right?
Exactly. And that's what, over the years, I can think of probably 15 people that would call and say, hey, we're building this. I'm building it on the lake, or I'm building it, whatever. And I would tell them, hey, this is what you can do. And, I just probably lost, let's just say $1,000. I'm just giving the number. But I felt better about it because I was honest with them. Yeah. I mean, I was honest and said, this is what you can do, and it's going to last forever. And then some of them would be on like a lake, too close to the water.
Yeah.
I can think of several out at different little private lakes. And then they'd call me later and they'd be like, I appreciate that. They're like, yeah. So anyway.
If we give people honest information without our agenda in it, and it seems to work out better.
It does. In the long run, they appreciate the honesty.
As a homeowner just starting out, planning my house out, there's so much information that I'm having to go through and look through anyway. So, hey, I didn't even think about termites. Now I am super concerned. This is a large asset. And like you talked about, the whole front of that house was eaten up. Yeah. It's major damage done by termites.
It costs them a lot to have all this replaced and repaired.
Yeah, and like you said, you get towards the end of the house, It's not a fun line item. Nobody is excited about their termite treatment line item, right? They can't wait to pick out their tile or their paint color or something like that.
That's true.
But you never see it again. You might not even think about it again.
Until it becomes a problem.
And it's such an expensive problem.
It was bad. The whole front of that house. And they fixed it, and we treated it, and there haven't been any issues since. But it was one of the wickedest ones I've seen in a while.
Yeah. And we've got some rental property that we manage and own, and however, rental isn't this, huge mailbox full of money game, right? Like
it's not.
You've got rental property yourself. It's a great wealth builder. I'm not down in real estate at all. Real estate was a passion of mine before I even started building. It's what got me into building, right? So I believe in the asset class. I love real estate, but the wealth builder does not come each month in the form of a rent check. The wealth builder comes in over time. You're providing housing for a fair price. That they're helping you maintain this asset, and appreciation is building the value of our asset over time. If we allow that asset to deteriorate all this time, much like our personal residence, then all of that disappears and it turns into a really big burden. Right. And so this might be, other than, a good termite treatment is protecting your house from pests underneath, just like a good roof is protecting your house from the rain coming through the ceiling,
That's exactly.
And these are important line items. So important that if you're going to get financing on a home, for the most part, there might be caveats somewhere, but for the most part, a termite treatment is required by your lender, and we have to keep.
An inspection's usually required. You're talking about for you
for new home construction.
Oh, new home.
For the
yes.
most part, it's somewhere in your lender paperwork that you have to get this pre-treatment done or some type of treatment done.
Well, if you're also building, if you're doing anything in a city limits, it's a mandatory. I mean, you've got to have some sort. You've got to have a pre-treat, a borate treatment, or you got to have a baiting. And we haven't even talked about baiting systems. Nope. But you got to have one of those in order to, I guess, get off your city permits or whatever. One other thing I wanted to say was some people as we're in the 2020s and before, they want to think more eco-friendly.
Yeah.
And that was another thing that we didn't touch on, was there are now baiting systems that say the state of Texas allows as a pre-treat requirement, because that's what the Texas Department of Agriculture requires, certain definitions. And one of them is a baiting system as well. And there are those that are out where people say, I don't want all that chemical in my slab. Yeah. I don't want all that chemical around my house. So there's now baiting systems. There's about 3 out on the market. They're all very good baiting systems. It's not the same as what you go to Home Depot and you buy those little baits.
Watered down.
Yeah. Well, no, not only that, they're like, about literally like, say, 2 inches big, where what we install is like will last for 6 months. Those will last for 30 days, Gotcha. So it's not the same. But that is an option that a lot of people are wanting to go green.
Yeah.
To move forward.
So we see it in the city permit level. We see it on the lenders. And I call you and say, hey, Sharisa, can I have the documentation on this home?
I need this form.
Yeah, exactly. And so I'll send that to whoever I need to.
I guess it's FHA and VA that require those, I think.
So, a lot of lenders have it in their paperwork that they require it. Mm-hmm. It's just the checklist, depending on the lender, may or may. I mean, every one of them says they require a survey, but you don't always get asked for a survey, Yeah. But when it comes down to it, for the most part, this is a required thing that we've got to look into. And so if it's, and that's really where it comes up is, hey, you have to get termite treatment. And the person that, asks really, what am I getting the best for my money, or what do you suggest, or something like that, then your answer a minute ago was Termidor. If somebody's like, hey, I need to check that box, what's my least expensive option? Yep. Hey, we can come in and borate treat your house, do the bottom 2 foot, it works well as well.
So out of all the houses that y'all build, do any of them come in under budget?
Absolutely.
Really?
Absolutely.
That's pretty cool.
If we really dug into it, if you looked at strictly what was budgeted versus changes, more would probably come in under budget. So back kind of thinking through we got a lot of money in one end and on the other we don't. Our landscaping was a lot like that at our house, and so grass and things like that. We need this erosion control. We need this landscaping. How does that factor into the hydroseed side with Precision Environment?
So you've got this pretty new house. You've got this awesome driveway coming in. You've got, whether you started landscaping or not, whatever you got going on, but you're also walking through mud.
Yeah.
Walking through dirt. You're tracking dirt in your house. You're doing all these things. And, you're kind of trying to figure out what you're going to do. You've either got red clay left over from the pad, or you've got some type of, inferior soil that's on the land you built. And you're like, what do we need to do? And, you've got different options. You've got sod, you've got hydroseed, and then you've got broadcast seed. Those are kind of your three options of what you've got. Then you could back up a little bit, but then, do we have gutters on the house?
Yeah.
Do we not have gutters? Where are our downspouts? Where are they positioned? You've number one got to remember that you're trying to protect your slab. You're trying to keep what you have. So gutters are always something that I totally recommend. First thing when I go look at a house, do you have gutters? I would recommend getting gutters before you do anything else. From there, hey, we're trying to keep this dirt from leaving. We're trying to hold on to what we have here. Here are your options, A, B, and C. And most of the time, people want something pretty around their house. So sod is typically what they go after.
The gutters, that's directing your water into certain places.
Yep.
Our landscaping, we have similar landscaping in our houses. We've got riverbeds and things that get water away from our house. We've also got to think about protecting our slab as far as moisture as well, not just the erosion of the dirt, but what kind of moisture levels in a year like Texas, where in August it's 105. It hadn't rained in, I don't know, can't remember.
Well, it's so kind of right now, going back to it, what soil do you have around your house? That's one of the biggest things I run into. So you show sod as an example. Okay, we don't want to lay sod. Mm-hmm. That's out of our budget. Okay, well, we're going to go with the hydroseed option. Well, the biggest thing that I run into is what type of soil are we starting out with?
So like when we leave and we've got a dressed up select fill clay pad all the way around the house.
Exactly.
If you just spray hydroseed directly to that, what are you going to get?
Not much. Yeah. Not much. And I lightly do some stuff on that end, but I've got some contractors and going back to what you said earlier, some guys that I grew up with that do fantastic work that I work closely with around here on that. So that's kind of the thing that you run into, and you got to tell this customer, hey, not only do you need to do the hydroseed, but you need to spread some topsoil around your house too. And to get that finished product, just be honest with them.
Yeah.
To be honest, this is what you need to achieve this.
Again, quoting numbers to numbers can be, well, hey, this guy gave me this number and this guy gave me this huge number. This guy sprayed hydroseed against your clay that's going to come up and then die in 3 days.
Exactly.
So we really, and it's nothing bad. I'm saying as we either know these things or we don't know these things, it's extremely important to find the right guide to help us just through the honest information of what it is.
Yeah. And then, like right now, one of the biggest things when I have somebody call me and I go look at it, I went and looked at one this past week, and they have a barn. They built a shop. They want to do some stuff around the back of the shop, spray it around their house. And the number one thing, I'm not even really worried about the dirt right now. I'm going, how are you going to water this? Whether you lay sod, hydroseed, whatever you do. And they go, well, we didn't think about that. It is not a good time of year to rely on Mother Nature.
Right.
You've really got to have a plan for water, in which it's the process. I don't care what you're doing. If you're laying sod or you're broadcast seeding or hydroseeding, you've got to have water. Adequate watering is super important because.
So if we're going to hire you to come in, you're going to help us with not only what are you doing, explain, hey, this is our steps in our process, but you're also going to help us understand what's the aftercare going to look like and what are you going to need to do to make sure the investment you're fixing to make is actually going to work out.
So on top of that, the other biggest thing is explaining to people, I can only get certain grass to grow for the time of year that I'm planting it.
Mm.
You can go get sod right now and you can plant, sod. It's the dirt's there, the grass is there. You've got to water it, do all the same things. but you've got to understand that it's going to go dormant during the wintertime. It's going to brown up a little bit. It's going to do its deal. The hydroseed, if I was to spray grass, say right now, we're at the end of summer. We're actually in the dog days of summer right now.
Yeah.
You know, I'm going to plant that Bermuda. If you're wanting to do strictly a Bermuda yard, which not a lot of times I'm adding millet in that because it's somebody's yard, you know, you're looking at 28 days plus or minus to really get a stand on that with adequate watering. And that's kind of the hardest thing. It's like I have some jobs that I shot in early October, you know, that I had some customers call me end of May, somewhere in there, and they go, hey, the ryegrass is dying off. It did awesome all through the winter. You know, this Bermuda is kind of coming in. It's coming on. Hey, you need to fertilize it. You got to think that seed stayed laying there.
Yeah.
For a couple months. I mean, it's not the time for it. The cool thing about the hydroseed is that I can get it you covered right then and there. I can get the ground covered and I can get something growing. I can mix that seed in for when you come into that next time of year, whether it's warm or cool, but you're going to have to help it out a little bit.
So explain hydroseed to us real quick as far as what are we talking about when we talk about hydroseed?
So hydroseed is it's a slurry is what it is. It's a machine that mixes a slurry. It has fertilizer, your seed choice, whatever that may be. It has a tackifier agent, and it has a mulch. The mulch is a wood fiber along with ground up, more or less paper, I guess you could say. And then the green that you see is the dye that's already in the bale. And that's what it's made up of. What it is the mulch is given coverage for your seed. It holds moisture.
Okay.
And it holds moisture, and it gives a place for that seed to germinate. And that's typically what it is. And you know, the biggest thing on the hydroseed is people think, oh, well, you know, you have a 600-gallon machine, you have a 700-gallon machine. It's not about gallons. It's about pounds. How many pounds of mulch am I adding to this area of 7,000 square foot, 8,000 square foot? How many pounds of seed am I putting in? How many pounds of fertilizer? It's totally about pounds.
That makes sense because
totally about pounds.
If someone's ever mixed up chemical to weed spray in their yard or in their pasture or something like that, everybody wants to look on the back of the bottle and say, how many gallons do I mix with it? It doesn't matter. It's how many gallons are you going to spray out over this acre?
Exactly.
So similar thing. You're going to come out, you're going to measure the square footage.
Yes.
Think about how much you need to apply to that.
Yes.
You know how much you can spray out per gallon or whatever, how much coverage you can get. So you're going to be building that math in.
It's totally about pounds. And a lot of the products that I use a profile product. It tells you on the bags, you know, hey, this is the rate per acres that this needs to be applied at. And that's what you try to pick your square footage numbers and apply it at that rate. Try to use quality products, try to use quality fertilizers, use fertilizers for the time of year that it is, quality tacking agents. You know, you try to mix that all in, then from there you go, okay, I'm trying to shoot this area, the 10,000 square foot. I need to make these 5 bales, 6 bales, 7 bales fit inside of this. And that's what you're looking for. I mean, I've when I first started doing it, I would go out there with a paint can and I'd paint it off. Yeah. And make sure I was getting my numbers inside. Yeah. I mean, it's super annoying. And the kids that were with me are like, what's this guy doing? You know, but it's just making sure I get my pounds and my seed pounds inside of that. I mean, I've got in the truck, I've got Folgers coffee can, you know, written on the side, 2 pounds of Bermuda. So I know to fill it up. You know, I've got 10 times. So I'll put 10 of those in there. Yeah. Or, you know, 5 pounds of millet or whatever the case may be. But it's just really your pounds is staying on top of it. It's the key.
Secret tricks of the trade. As a builder or someone looking to build, you are dealing with 60 or 70 different small businesses, trades, suppliers, whatever it is. It's a management company is what it is. Yeah. So we rely on y'all to know your industry because it's not something we can just learn. Y'all are continuing your education all the time, thinking of new things that are coming out, you know, getting experience with those, figuring out what's not working, what is working. So we're only as good as the entire team that's building that house. Thank y'all so much for the information we got today. It was thorough. This is the deepest dive I've even had these conversations with y'all, right? So closing it out, if if someone was starting out as a builder tomorrow, or someone was looking at building a house tomorrow as a new customer and didn't really know where to start, based on y'all's industry alone, what would you say is a good place to start and some things to think about when you're thinking about pre-treating your house or pest control in general?
As far as a homeowner, they've got those 3 options: baiting, a slab pre-treatment, or a borate treatment on the framework. And then, when they get moved in the Huntsville area, 30 West, 1696, even maybe north, 45, scorpions are a big deal this time of year. They're really a big deal. I mean, and people around here don't deal with them the way they do in Austin or, out in the hill country or whatever. I mean, I have some people that really get upset.
They do.
So anyway, my biggest thing is I tell people when they build a new house, so just a general pest control spray.
Our back porch area, our patio, we've got a little outdoor kitchen, a little seating area, and we've got really high ceilings in one part of it. And it feels cool. And then it starts, you've lived there a little while, and you start getting dirt daubers, and we've got all these we got like 9 pendant lights with these dirt daubers stuck all to them.
You want to tell him?
Spider webs everywhere.
He went and did it today.
Did you really?
Yeah.
That's hilarious. I told you Carly takes care of everything.
Carly had been asking me
I went
for
out there
about
today.
3 weeks, maybe a month, and I was like, I promise we'll get to it.
That's
so
so
today
funny.
I said, Tyler, you got stuff out there direction. I said,
So
go take care of it.
I've started telling folks that ask me, it's like, look, even if the spiders and the things don't bother you that bad, cleaning dirt dauber nests all over the top where they've, you spend all this money for this V-groove ceiling on your back patio, and where the stucco or the siding meets the V, you've got all these dirt dauber nests that now you're trying to have to get off. And just the ease of life of not having to get on a 12-foot ladder and clean the back porch ceilings because you did some preliminary maintenance as far as spraying for things is a game changer. It makes cleaning your house so much easier because you don't have near as much to clean. And
so Carly said it worked for y'all for about a year, or maybe, I don't know.
It worked really well.
Somebody went out and dusted.
I did.
We're big in. You did it.
Yeah.
We're big into dusting.
Yeah.
Cody, we have another Tyler. We have Cody, Billy, Don, and we've probably got another person coming on part time. Anyway, we're all big into dusting.
Yeah.
That's our big thing and the dusting keeps the spider webs, the wasp nest, and the mud
That's
daubers.
another thing.
Well, like today, one of the things that I focused on at their house, the perimeter wasn't terrible. Like on the back porch, I had some dirt dauber nests. There was a hornet nest on the other side. But like today, I focused on y'all's garage.
Oh, our garage
Like
is a
y'all's
nightmare.
Man, I dusted all that in there. It was pretty. There was a lot of spiders.
I'm like, man, I'm going to have to repaint my garage if I don't do something pretty quick, because I got to knock these dirt dauber nests off and then get them loose. So because I think she had y'all come out and do the back porch, but that's a concerning area because we were hanging out there, and our garage is our garage. But now I'm like, no, we need to get them to do everything all the time, because it just saves you from having, like, I look at cleaning my garage at this point and just go, it's too big of a job. I can't do it.
Well, I mean, I don't know about y'all. I mean, but I guess, I don't know if you're talking about pressure washing the garage or if you're talking about cleaning the garage. But, I mean, I don't know if you're talking about cleaning the inside.
Well,
of the
no,
garage,
I'm not picking things up. Like, it stays relatively picked
Yeah.
up. It's just like the dirt daubers at 10-foot ceilings stuck to the corner up there. It's just like, man, it gets away from you.
Yeah.
It does. It does. Well, I don't know what Tyler does either, but, we pressure wash once a year.
Yeah.
And then we dust everything right after we pressure wash it.
Yeah.
And then that's usually good for about 10, 11, 12 months. And then, I'm like, it's time to do it again. And it's only because the dust that we apply is only good for probably, if I had to do a shelf, I don't know if shelf life's the word, but if I had to do an expectancy of that chemical, it's probably good about 8, 9, 10 months, depending on the elements outside. So, but that I'm telling you, that is the one thing. I'm like you. I get to where I can't stand mud daubers, and so now I'm very weird about getting it dusted.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
Well, that's the number one thing, like showing up at their house today, because y'all have the same landscaping as we do.
Yeah.
Number one thing is I notice is the rock around the house. scorpion
Oh, yeah.
prime habitat. So I'm real anxious about treating that.
Yeah.
And keeping it taken care of.
Yeah. So, like kind of getting back on that chemical. Yeah. We're going to create those barriers for termites, things like that. But we also, what are some, like I know getting dirt up too far on your slab, where that like our landscaping gets built up a little bit too much, where the dirt's up on the siding of our house or something like that. They're
2 to 3 inches of slab exposure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And keeping your gutters clean.
Keeping your gutters clean for
Really big
carpenter
thing.
ants.
Yep.
Carpenter ants love. People call us and they're like, "Oh, I got these huge black ants," and they're like, "My house is only 2 years old," and and they're
ants
like,
don't care how old your house is.
yeah, and
they?
I'm like, do you have leaf guards? Do you have any kind of screening over your gutter? No, and then it's in their gutters. They're living out of their gutters.
It's funny. I'll send her pictures. I'll go, "Hey, here's the problem." I'll send a picture
and
and
it'll be like
gutters sagging down because there's just pine needles and stuff. And
cleaning out your gutters means you have ants in your house. It's hard to connect for us if we don't know it. But that's the thing is like, Slevin and I got to talking about it the other day. My little boy's almost turning 8, and I was like, it's really not as much what you pick to do. It's the amount of experience you can get doing it.
Yeah.
Because like those little things that right when you walk up only come because you have experience in it. And it's just not something that you're going to go take a test and read a book and be just as good the next day.
Yeah.
Stick with it. Don't quit.
I mean, I tell people all the time, I'll tell them all kind of rats and stuff. And they're like, "How do you know all this?" I'm like, "Well, that's just because I live this glamorous life.
40 years.
Yeah,
and the pests are going to do what the pests are going to do.
Exactly,
they haven't changed their mind that much.
You just learn it, and you just you learn it, and you just pass on that knowledge. And some pest control companies, they don't want to pass on the knowledge because that's money out of their pocket.
In theory,
exactly.
Right. It's how fast we can get in and out to the next stop.
Yeah. So anyway, but it's true. It's all about the knowledge, and I've learned over the years. He's learned over the years, and you learn what works and what doesn't work. So,
well, thank y'all so much.
Thanks. I hope we weren't too boring.
No, this was great. This was absolutely great. All right, so Precision Pest Control. If we want to get a hold of you, as far as website, Facebook, where are you at?
We are on Facebook, Precision Pest Control, Huntsville, Texas. Our website is precisionpestcontroltx.com, and I don't have any other social media avenues. I'm not a Snapchatter. I'm not maybe I should get Tyler on that because he's younger.
Hey, you could probably do some extremely interesting pest control TikToks with these videos you're talking about.
Okay,
that's what we want.
We have an employee, and he was doing that, and I kind of was like, I don't think you should do this anymore because, it was actually pretty good videos.
Yeah.
But I was like, you're in the middle of their house,
Privacy
well,
issues.
It wasn't even in the middle of their house. They were out in their yard or whatever. So anyway, but it was actually pretty good employees. You have to admit, Tyler. He was doing good. Not you. You didn't.
No.
It was another employee.
He was doing it. He was doing it for the right reasons. He just wasn't being too careful about
what it looked like.
What it looked like.
So anyway,
Precision Pest Control Huntsville, Texas on Facebook, and precisionpestcontroltx.com.
It's a website,
right.
And if you Google it, it's Precision Pest Control. We're at the top, and
good for you.
And that's hard though. It's hard to keep that.
It is hard to keep that.
And but well, I shouldn't say we're at the top. I'm sure the national boys are one of them's above us, but But anyway, that's the way it is with national companies. But and then Tyler, and same way, if you need to get in touch with the hydro seeding, you can either call. I guess we're gonna have to either adjust websites or
we're currently right now. Some good friends of ours own a sign company and advertising, and we're working on some stuff through them. But man, my stuff's just been word of mouth.
Yeah,
and that's where I'm keeping it at right now.
Yeah,
I'm fine with it. So
and most of we spend a lot of time and effort on Google and websites and things like that, but word of mouth still our best way to get clients.
And Jeremy, I would like to say this: that doing this for all these years, supporting. It might seem trivial to some to go and say our friends the Irwins who have the texting walk every year, or Tomorrow's Promise Montessori School who have the Rainbow Reads, or the fair, or Boys and Girls Clubs, whatever. I mean, it might seem to some, but over the years, I mean, there's some things that you're glad you help support as a business because you see the good it does when you're around to watch it over the years.
Yeah.
But same way, all the stuff at the school district, I know that things, Huntsville sometimes doesn't get the best rap, but there's some good people up there.
For
some
sure.
good folks.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, there's some good people that care about kids. So I like to support up there. It's one of those things to where, and you've already learned this, and you'll continue to learn that when you support for all these years, it's a good thing. It's, and I'm not saying like, yeah. I'm saying like you see the organizations that are good, that really have good hearts and that are good things.
Yeah.